Hey everybody, welcome back to the #1 show for all things hobby, and that's probably number 1 away from the bottom. Jankety ass part. No, shit. Wow. Okay. Number definitely at the bottom. Poncho's Paint Booth, where we do all things hobby, namely painting models. Again, usually exclusively Warhammer 40k, but there's some other stuff thrown in there. I'm working on it. And, well, speaking of Jankety ass podcast, that's one of my other channels or one of my other playlists actually here on this YouTube channel is my podcast, which you can get to if you go to the corner and subscribe to Multi-Murdy Media. All my stuff will pop up in your feed, or well, you'll have to go look for it. You get the Jankety Ass podcast playlist. You get the playlist for this series, and then of course you get the Gutsy Ass Gamer playlist, which is my video games and Twitch playthroughs and all that stuff. Now, for today, get my light on here. Now let's go to the table and see what I'm working on today. This time, I'm working on another adeptusastartes. This time, a special character of the Black Templars. This is the Emperor's Champion. In all of his primarisified glory. Now, the lore of the Emperor's Champion is that, well, basically like the originator of the of the Black Templars chapter, after they were split off from the Imperial Fist, was Sigismund, who was one of the main lieutenants of the Imperial Fist Primarch. And it is he basically went off on like a repentant crusade, so to speak, and the Black Templars chapter basically just followed that model. They don't really like have their own home world or anything like that. They just troll around the galaxy all day. But the idea of the Emperor's Champion is that part of their like genetic legacy, since they all come from Sigismund's gene seed in some way or another, they occasionally one Templar will, start having visions and then eventually be, I guess, possessed by the spirit of Sigismund and become the Emperor's Champion, and he becomes a real motherfucker in combat. Sorry about the swearing. And what that means is that in this game, or in the game anyways, the Emperor's Champion, he's pretty good at close combat. He's got a bunch of relics and stuff, and he's especially good and gets powered up when he's fighting other characters. So he's kind of like an assassin, but not in like a sneaky way. More like a aimed surgical weapon. And he's cool too. Now, on to the important stuff. Obviously, being that he's going to be a Black Templars, first thing I had to do is the primary color is black. So again, already finished. But what we can do is add a little bit of detail to that black, and that is going to be done by dry brushing in our field gray. And I will also take the time to add some of that gray to the base and provide like a first layer, get ahead of that. Then also whenever I pour it out, I have more than I can use to dry brush. But that's going to be going, I'm just going to go over pretty much all the armor with field gray. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Alright. So it's a little hard to tell, especially around the chest, because it's basically just a flat plate. But got a little bit of edging detail on this guy's armor. sort of all around, and then of course I added some paint to the base. So now our next step, put the gray away. Next thing we're going to do is start working on the whites. So this guy, see, I gotta think about exactly how I want to do this. Effect. Okay, so I'm gonna make his shoulder pads have the colors of close combat support. So that means that the main color is still going to be black with a red trim and detail. So that means that what I'm going to do with the white is, well, not a whole lot. Basically just this back plate here, and I guess I'll do the elbows white, and then I'll also add a little bit of detail on his shoulder shield there as well. Or actually, I'll just make the whole thing white. Yeah, that'd be easier. Yes. And then at the same time, I also want to do, I'm also going to do is a big flowing tabard here. But this is going to be slightly different from, it's not going to be, it's not going to be white into like gray or black. I'm actually going to do something that looks more, I'm going to do the parchment effect, basically, on his tabard. So that means I'm going to paint it up with Drake's Tooth. And, actually, let's see. Yeah, it's going to be Drake's Tooth, and then eventually washed with Earthshade along with some other stuff. And then I'm also going to, I might as well do the Purity Seal up here with the Drake's Tooth that's coming off of his shoulder shield there. These bigger ones are actually going to be red, so I'm not going to deal with that right this minute. What we'll do, start working on the white. Alright, show you what I did here. Give me 1 second. Don't need that anymore. Not yet, anyway. So, applied some white to some surfaces, most notably the shield there on his shoulder. But, of course, some stuff on the back here. And then, of course, we added in that nice, oh, I'm not even finished with it. Cool. There's still a chunk of tabard underneath his chest plate. I almost forgot about that. That's okay, it won't take too long. Anyways, while I'm doing this, the next step that I'm going to do is to apply the white contrast paint that I've been using. That's Apothecary White, which is this guy right here. Applies a nice, very thin layer of light gray, which on raised areas, it basically leaves the white almost completely intact. But then around the edges and in crevices and stuff, it'll fill in with a nice light gray, so we get more detail there once I am done with this last part of that. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. So he's got some coming out from underneath his chest piece, and then behind his belt and out in between the back of his legs. Very, very real, very awesome. So the last thing we're going to do with this guy for now, come on, is real quick, I'm just going to hit those white areas with this Apothecary White. And that is going to give us a little bit of just extra color in the white, so it's not too strong, at least not in this case. And then especially with like these elbow pads that kind of have sharper edges, it allows the edges to become a little bit more pronounced. And then of course his shield insignia here doesn't really have a lot of detail on it, so it just kind of makes it a little bit sorry about that, makes it look a little bit more worn. Clean up and show you what I mean. Away. Yeah, so you can see there's a little bit of extra gray stuff going on, and it makes the surface look like kind of beaten and realistic. So that's actually kind of cool. And same thing, sort of in the back. You can see there's like just a little bit extra in the elbows there, especially that this left one of his. And as I said, we're going to go ahead and let that dry off. And we'll come back and continue in a moment. All right, coming back, gonna work on some more details on our champion here. And you'll notice that when I started this clip, I was painting in some red because, so these longer seals, I made them into the pure red color. Partially because I accidentally got a little bit too much on my palette when I was working on the chaplain. So I had some left over, I had to use it. So I went ahead and did that really quick, and now, what am I going to do? I think the next thing that I'm going to work on is the leather elements, because there really isn't a whole lot else. Yeah. So leather, of course, being leather brown. And what that's going to go over is not a whole lot, mainly just his belt there, because as you can see, it's like an actual pull belt. Then he's got a pistol holster in the back. Pistol holster, as well as a grenade holder. And then, yeah, just these straps on his greave here are going to be leather. He has some, or he would have some on the other side, but they're covered up, so I don't have to worry about them. So, here we go. Leather brown. Okay, added in a couple more details. So you can see I basically just did up his belt and some straps and his holster. So now, let's see, those paints are still drying even though they're layers. So we're going to go ahead and just sit back and let our champion dry off for a little bit before we come back and finish up some more details. Okay, let's get some more done on our big boy champ. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit better. So, Whenever I last left you guys, I kind of rushed through a few, well, not so much rushed through, but didn't really complete a few things. We're going to do that now. So, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in with the Drake's Tooth, which I used on his tabard here, and I'm going to apply it to the skulls, which I've added to the base. And I don't think there's anything else on this guy that really needs it. No. And then, of course, there was one skull that was kind of already part of the base scenery. It's a little chunky, you can kind of see there. That's the Drake's Tooth. And then I'm also going to come in with the white, which I forgot to do before, but he's got this lantern hanging off of his belt. So I'm going to go ahead and paint up the insides with the white, so that'll get ready for a contrast color. Let's see, then start in with our reds. The pure red, I'm just going to use real quick to go ahead and fill in his eye lenses while I have the chance. And then, of course, the terracotta is our main weapon color, which, well, it won't, okay, I was going to say it won't go on the hilt of the sword, but it will go on the handle. It's got that nice red grip going on, as well as there's a couple of purity seals on the, well, there's only really one, I guess. Well, I'm going to use the red on these, they look like wax bulk, well, sorry, got tired on you guys there. No, I won't use it there. But where I will use the red, other than the handle, is going to be on his the rim and the detail of his shoulder pads, because basically, well, I'm painting up to have the close combat elite specialist, the elite close combat elite, basically elites get red over black instead of black over white. So that's what we'll do. Let's go ahead and I gotta get this thing fired up again. Let's see how that turns out. Right. So I'll show you what I did here, and then we're going to break away from the reds a little bit in a second here. Or reds and browns, I should say. So, skulls on the base, got a base layer, and of course our lantern here is ready for some contrast work in there. And then the shoulder pads, we got some red trim. All nice and stuff. And I think, let me see if you can see it. Might even be able to see the eye lenses, just barely. Anywho, what I want to, oh god damn it, I forgot the handle. Oh, I think I still got some paint on my palette here. Yes, here we go. One sword grip. I'm also having a problem with this brush. I mean, it's brand new and it's already starting to split on me, but that's just what happens sometimes. Alright, there we go. Got some red leather going on there. So what I want to do now is I actually want to do a little bit of work on the sword here. So, this thing is the black blade. So it stands to reason that obviously the blade should be black. However, that's not that interesting, and it's kind of hard to make that look cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go in, because it's also a power weapon, so it has like an energy field is the idea behind it. So I'm going to add like a little bit of blue and green. To start with, I'm going to take my dark sky. This is the darkest blue that I have, while still remaining, blue. And I'm just going to do a nice dry brushing over the entire blade and get like a very faint blue tinge in there. And then, once that is done, let's see which one I want to use. I'll go in with just a very little bit of our scorpion green and kind of hit spots, again dry brushing, on the sword, and that'll give it like a kind of like a blue warp into green sort of effect. So let's go ahead and start off with the blue. Right. Got some cool sword detail going on. So now what I want to do is I want to include in the sword, I want to go ahead and actually take the next step into the red and brown derivative elements. And for that, we're going to go ahead and pull out our trusty Agressive shade. So this is going to go over all the skulls, tabards, these red pennants floating in the back, not floating, and just the other reds and stuff like that. Also at the same time, we'll go ahead and finish up the lantern real quick by applying the Iandin yellow, which this is over white. This gives us a nice like fiery effect, which is great for like a glowing lantern. And then on the sword, I can also go ahead and do this now. Let's see, where is it? We want to add a little bit of gloss to it, and so for that, we have our technical art code paint, and this is basically it's just like a see-through compound, and it adds a glossy texture to whatever it's on. So we'll put that on the blade of the sword, and it'll hopefully give us a little bit of a. Actually, you know what? I should show you the detail. As you can see, I went ahead and added just like a light blue tinge to every part of the sword. And then I went in with the scorpion green to add just like a little bit of a flash or reflection. Like a specular effect, I guess would say. So I'll go ahead and start off with the yellow. And I'll do the art coat. And then last is the Agrex. Let's see how that turns out. There we go. Got some more detail on our champion. A nice shiny blade. Kind of there you go. Got to hit the right light angle. So his tabard's got some wash in there. Really helps the folds and crevices stand out more. Same with the skulls. And then of course his little pennants here and the details on his shoulder. Now, as always, I'm going to go ahead and let this guy dry off, and then we will come back and keep on working.
Are you listening to this show and thinking, man, I'd like to start a podcast, but I don't even know where to start? Well, Buzzsprout has the answers for you. Buzzsprout is a podcast hosting service that provides a number of valuable resources to help you on your podcasting career path. For one, Buzzsprout offers indefinite hosting of all your episodes and allows you to host as much material as you want, depending on the type of subscription that you opt for. Buzzsprout also provides a means for getting your show hosted to every major podcasting platforms such as iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, you name it. In addition, Buzzsprout also provides various means to get your show monetized through various sponsorship and affiliate programs, links to other paid hosting platforms such as Patreon and YouTube, and your own personal newsroom to learn all the tips and tricks for optimizing your podcast for the greatest return on your investment. If you're hearing all this and you're still interested, you can go to my link below and receive an Amazon gift card for starting a podcast hosting subscription that you'll receive on the second billing period of your podcast journey. Everyone has something to share, and there's no time like the present. Join Buzzsprout today.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and continue on with our champion, Emperor's Champion, as a matter of fact. Now, we finished up the red details previously and also did some work on the sword here. Now, what I want to do is, well, actually, we didn't finish up. Now, we're going to finish up. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back into this tabard that he's got going between his legs and dry brush back in some more Drake's Tooth. Let me get the light on here. This will help me pick out like a lot of the edges in the cloth and really make it stand out. It'll look nice. And I'll also hit this little purity seal that he's got there too. And I'm going to do the same thing with pure red over both the insignias on the shoulder. I'm going to avoid the rims. That's a bit of a pain in the ass. And then also on these larger tape banners that are flying out from his backpack. And then we'll see what it looks like from there. Here we go. Okay, a little bit of dry brushing done. Got some good details going. So now, what I want to do is... Oh, I already got it. Okay. I thought I forgot something, but well, it's actually my next step here. Put these away. Next thing I want to do is work on the grays and the metals. So, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to come in with our ash gray, our nice light gray. And that is going to go into the between the joints area, which you can't really see a whole lot other than, well, his right arm that's holding the sword up. So he's got a spot between the elbow, at his shoulder joint, and then you can see some of the palm. Do it there. Same thing with his left arm. Obviously, you can't see the shoulder. And then with his legs. Oh, and he's got like a bunch of cabling or ribbing that you can see in the torso right there. There's a nice big spot, so that's going to be gray. Under his butt here, you can't really see it that well. It's gray. And then there was one more thing. Oh yeah, and then this spiky rock that he's standing on. Ash gray. Once I'm done with that, we're going to come in with gunmetal, our nice metal color. And there isn't a whole lot, but there's like a few buckles here on his leg. Presumably also on the right leg, but that's covered up. The cage around the lantern, his belt buckle. And then, well, there's not too much. Some spots on the backpack. And then most importantly, it's going to be his chain and handcuff that he has going from his sword to his wrist. So he never loses it. Never loses his duty. Oh, and then the earpieces as well. This guy's pretty simple. So, start with the gray and then the metal. And then we'll move on. And then we will move on from there. There we go. And as always, had more gunmetal than I needed. Oh well. Because even with the dropper bottles, I'm still wasting paint. But now, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the last thing we'll do for now. And that is hit the grays and the metals with our good old friend Null Oil. So bring out some details, make some stuff dark, especially in the joints and such. So let's go ahead and get to it. Hell yeah. Got a little bit of shade going on. Show you the main here. So basically we just added some more detail into some of the metals parts. So like the chain there, you can kind of see more detail between the links even in this camera. And then of course like the joints on the arms, you can see some of the ribbing going on. And this rock that he's got on his base. You can see the ridges a little bit better. So, as always, we're going to go ahead and let this guy dry off for now. And when we come back, we'll just continue on with even more details. Okay. Champ's coming along pretty nicely. What did we do? We added in some more details, basically. Nothing too big. Now, the next thing I want to do is, well, this is just kind of be kind of its own single step. I'll just do it now and then get into more details later. But right now, I want to go ahead and get started on the rocky texture of the base. That is going to be with our good old gray pumice, rough gray pumice. So we'll just start dolloping some of this just all over. Really getting a nice little bit of, that's too much, coverage on the champion. And I also want to be careful not to do, or not to leave too many areas in the middle undone, because then it's just harder to do once I try and come back in with the snow. But I'm still gonna have to. I'm gonna have to do some fine texture paint packing anyway. So I think that should be enough coverage for now. Got some on the front, some on the back, and then there's plenty of space for snow. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and let that dry for a second. And then we'll come back and get ready to finish this guy up. Okay, time to get rid of this and start finishing up our camera configuration, which I almost forgot again. Video, focus. Too much. Perfect. Okay. Our Emperor's champion, I'll go ahead and clip him in here. So, the last thing I did was the dirt here, and I went ahead and off camera I applied our Nuln Oil shade to the dirt to go ahead and get these rocky features out and to, let it dry, because otherwise it would have just been a short clip and then another cutaway. So that's dry. So now I can actually finish this guy just about one sitting here. Or, yeah, pretty much, except for maybe the rims. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to address, there are at least well, maybe not. Oh yeah, there's some underneath. There are some external pipes on this guy, but the only spot they are is like right in the back. You can't even really see them here because they're kind of go from like the bottom of his ribs up into where his backpack would connect into the suit. But for those, I'm going to do them up Toxic Mist. Just a nice light blue to like a poppy contrast. Next, on his left hand here, he's got like this rosary. Now the cord that's in his hand, I'm going to go ahead and do that up with demonic yellow. And then the actual imperial insignia pendant that he's got hanging down here, as well as other gold elements. So the base, or the top and bottom of the lantern, his what is this called? His olive crown, not halo. I forget what it's called. That's going to be gold. And then, of course, the hilt and bottom of his sword. And those are going to be done up with greedy gold, which is the more standard, darker of the two golds that we have with Army Painter. And then the gold and the yellow are going to be covered up with a layer of Reichland Flesh shade. This is the more orangish one, as opposed to the other one that Rhomb used, which is brown based. But let's go ahead and get started with the Toxic Mist. Alright, got our golds and yellows in. And you'll notice that I also... I did one thing that I didn't mention I was going to do earlier, and that was to just let me dry brush in a little bit of my bright ash gray into the dirt here to get the details up. You know, I did that for two reasons. One, I had to, or I want to anyways, and two, it gave me a few extra seconds to let the gold paint dry before I tried applying the wash, which I've done so now. So got a nice burnished color going there. The yellow on his rosary or pendant isn't as standoutish. The one thing that is kind of standout, you can sort of see the wires now that are running underneath his, hard to get light there, his backpack there, the really bright blue. So I was talking about earlier, but it's not too much, you know. So now, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to get our snow on this guy. You've seen me do this before. Let's go ahead and snow up the base, and then we can get out of here. Okay, that's it. The Emperor's Champion is finally finished. Maybe he'll actually win some games for me now. Let's go ahead and take a look at him. Once I get this thing closed up and put away. Ta-da! Champs here. There we go. So, the nice regal black of his chapter. But we got some details going on in here. Let's see if turning this off will... Oh yeah, there we go. That'll make the brighter stuff stand out even more. I'm still having problems with the bit of blur there. I still need to replace this camera too. Oh yeah. Looking good. Alright. So now that we're done with that, all that's left is for you guys to do is go to the corner, like and subscribe to Multi-Murdy Media, which is the page that you're watching right now. You have this playlist, Paint Booth, and a few other ones, including my podcast and, you know, video games and Twitch playthroughs, stuff like that. And stay tuned to the end of the episode. You'll get my website that has also all the links to everything, so my socials, podcast locations, and my model gallery for this show, where you can see a bunch of the models that I've already done up in all their glory, and, you know, just admire me, I guess. So, anywho, got plenty more coming up, so keep staying tuned, keep watching every, what are these, Thursday is when I put these out. So, see you very soon.